Hello, everyone. Or whoever is waiting in lobby, that is. Yes, it does appear as if they can hear me. Taz Lynch said hello. So did Quindy. Max Powers definitely didn't say hello. Not at all. He's not here. Yeah, Max is fictional. That's a great question, Anne. Oh, they did say they thought I was pretty quiet, so maybe if I talk closer into the actual mic and stuff like that. Yeah, but I don't want to hurt your ears either. So find that as close to you can get as possible. I don't think they can hear you, and we absolutely can. Let's do it. Let's talk to our people.
Oh, I forgot to put on my thing. We don't get an intro, but we don't get an intro anyway because it would be the pro tips intro, and this is not pro tips. Although I still have the oh wait, let me hide the logo. Wait. There we go. I do not have the Terrain Tuesday logo, so we're just flying by the seat of our pants here, guys. There I am. I guess I'm still a pro. I'm still a pro. This is Anne doing Terrain Tuesday though, so we'll be good. Yes, I am giving tips.
Technically, this is RTB Pro Tips Terrain Edition.
Ooh, I don't know, Justin. Howdy,
Well, because
everybody.
it's not the crazy tornado Edness that's normally the. I'd rather call it a more refined name like RTB Pro Tips.
Oh,
You
all
know,
right, all right.
just Pro Tips.
Yes, terrain and basing knowledge, because they're really the same thing, guys. I mean, terrain is just a vast extrapolation of basing where you simplify things because you're working really big. Um, but you use the same sort of things in both of them. So today, Justin and I had to last minute scramble and Google search to figure out what this model even is because we thought it was Bones 5 and then we couldn't find it. So it turns out to be a Bones 4 Ruined Temple from the Fantasy Scenics expansion, right, Justin? That was an expansion?
Yes, Fantasy Scenics was an expansion in Bones 4. Also, I
Alrighty.
think they say I'm a little quiet still. So
All right. So shall I pump you up? Pump you up. We took Justin down just a bit, guys, because he was blowing out my eardrum. So as long as you can still hear him, I don't want to pump him up too much, just because then it's gonna hurt my ear. So hold on while I see what I can do. There's a Justin. There's his volume. Let me see. I'll pump him up to 85, but I don't want to pump him back up to 100.
how about now, Anne? Is that okay?
I'm at 86. How's this? That's fine. So hopefully that's not too bad. It's up by 10 percentage points. Yeah, just barely better than Baron's chat, right, HM Road Dog? Everybody wants to know if Ed is okay. He stuck his head in the door briefly, so as not to breathe on us all yesterday to say that he was staying home more. I mean, he's sick. Ed gets colds every once in a while, but he thinks it's just a cold. So we shall see. Hopefully he is correct and all is good. But I mean, yeah, usually when Ed doesn't get sick too often, but when he does get sick, usually he's out for several days because his philosophy and the one that he wants all of us to go along with is the if you're sick, you stay the heck away from work philosophy, which is a great That was before even all this virus stuff started going on. So if Ed doesn't feel well, Ed will not be at work because he doesn't want to plague the rest of us. So I'm certain from the fact that he did stick his head in yesterday that he is okay, and he's just trying to get better. Yeah. Hey, here you go. Don't worry, you didn't mix anything. Yeah. Yeah, see, exactly, Max Powers. If I hear it in the true form, it will totally destroy my ear. Yeah, exactly, Threads of Fate. I appreciate coworkers like that, too, that don't come in and get the rest of us sick. So that is not why I'm working from home today. I'm working from home because Justin was working from home, and so it was just easier. So, yeah, we have this capacity. If he's working from home, I can just stream remotely, so yeah, and I'm getting a lot done. Oh, wait, before we start, wait. Let me go to Minicam and show you guys. Those of you who were in earlier saw Mr. Ferret. Mr. Ferret got a lot more, cool on him. Let me get my focus readjusted. Ferret! Mr. Ferret is pretty much done except for his base now. So, and actually it's green stuff. I decided to fill it in. I think I mentioned to you guys that I would, and this is something that also is applicable to terrain. When you're trying to do this sort of sculpting fill, I find that either Abe's Epoxy Sculpt or green stuff is a good fit for it. I like green a little bit better these days just because it'll stick. I know it'll stick a bit better and I won't run into smooshiness like I will sometimes with Abe's. But Mr. Ferret is all painted and now his base is setting. So this by the end of the day, I will be able to at least put a base coat on it. I'll probably have to touch up my little priming fail there. But yeah, so Mr. Ferret is almost done. I sent Ron a picture earlier and Ron loved him. So yay. Okay. Let's get on base. So yeah, this is the from the Fantasy Scenics expansion of Bones 4. Let me refocus. There we go, nice and sharp. I'm gonna straighten out my camera so y'all don't get really annoyed if it's crooked, because I get annoyed if it's crooked. Let's see here. There we go, much better. Excellent. So this is cool, and I found it in the box out of Doom outside of Justin's office. And this is what happens sometimes is that the bosses will feature stuff, or somebody will haul it into Justin's office and just randomly leave it there. So in order to make sure he doesn't buried under the amount of stuff in his office, he dumps it in a box outside his door. And this box is full of goodies. So I sorted through it, and I found this ruined temple, and part of it was broken, which explained why it was in the box. And so I was like, this is fair game. It is all mine, because as those of you know who heard me say it earlier, my secret passion is painting terrain. It's fun. And this is exactly the sort of thing I like to paint because it's got a lot of texture and stonework on it. So you can put paint on it and get really good effects with kind of minimal effort, to be honest. So what we are going to do today, I actually got a statue bit. It's from the Temple Dragon, the 77503, the statue that he sits on, actually is a pretty good fit for covering that up. So I'm planning to do that. I might even put a little sacrifice bowl in front of it. I might sculpt one real quick. Not sure. But anyway, I might put the dragon on top of it and make it an encounter. This is actually a great piece for an encounter or an objective for tabletop gaming because it's nice and flat. You can put stuff in it. You can put stuff under it. Say there was something underneath, the statue, and have it be an objective marker. You can dress it up in various ways, which I'm going to do today because I want to add some fancy to it. So let me see. Not if it's on a mixed surface, but from our conversation the other day, it seems it's fine to paint on it as long as it's cured. Threads of Fate, at least in my with Mr. Ferret here, I'm just going to paint right on that. I'm going to paint right over the top of it. It should be just fine. I just have to wait for it to fully cure, which is probably going to be a couple hours in the temperature of my house. So I also will use it. Well, I already used it here. I lost a pillar, so I just filled the gap with green so that I could put rubble over the top of it. So we'll be doing a bit of that. I don't know. I've got all sorts of stuff that I use for basing and things. I like to take stuff like this and dress it up a little so that it's not just out of the box. And especially you can see I'm missing a wall here, so I'm not sure what I'll do about the wall yet. Cork doesn't quite fit. So this is cork. Cork is your best friend when you're trying to create rubble. You can rip off a little piece of cork and we can play with it. So what I want to do to this today is... Yeah, I didn't even get a whole hour in, yeah. Okay, everybody's good, Good. All right, so what I want to do today is I cleaned the mold lines off a skeleton so I could chop his head off and put some skulls around here. I've actually got 3 skeletons. I can chop all their heads off. So to dress up things and ruins, especially, putting some bones around is a good idea. And skeletons, especially bone skeletons, are cheap. So they are a great resource for bits. So we will chop his little head off. Heads will roll.
Thank you for the sub, Rex.
You could also do kind of a slice off of this spear here. And if you didn't want to straighten it out too much, you could trim it kind of jaggedly. Put a little bit of a slice in it that seems to imply that it was splintered. Let's see if I can get my clippers to do that. There we go. So essentially, getting like skeletons that are very simple and just using them for bits. I actually kept a box of Games Workshop Skeleton Warriors around for the longest time for this purpose. There we go. That looks actually quite convincingly splintered. Excellent. So now we have a spear tip that we can leave lying around here on the floor of our temple. I could also do a skeleton lying against the wall. I'd have to like move his feet around, but on this wouldn't actually be too hard. So we can do that too. I've buried a skeleton in water before. That was fun. They're just really useful as little dungeon dressing bits. And especially if you're using something like this, so it's probably like a key encounter in your game, or it's an objective in your tabletop game. You want to make it look cool and dress it up a little bit because, it looks so much better and it's so much more fun to play on it if it's really well done. So I'm just trimming off my little spear bit here. There we go. Got our little splintered spear. Oh, I missed a little part. I do try to clean most of the mold lines off of these things because obviously if they're still on, it just doesn't look good. I like to put, let's see, where should we put our head? Put our little head over here. Yeah, but definitely if you have a body in there in the encounter and you want the body to, there we go, little skull, and you want the body to be an objective, that darn well that if you bring this out in the middle of a D&D game and there's a body leaning in the corner over here, your players are all going to want to search the body. So, make sure you only put a body down if there is a body there, otherwise they get sad. Let's see here. Sorry,
Dread Skull. No, it's not quite released yet, but I would say it will be released sometime this year. It's from the Fantasy Scenics Bones 4-pack.
Yeah.
And in theory, by the end of this year, everything from Bones 4 should be released, right, Ann?
Yeah, in theory. Everything works in theory. We were discussing this earlier. So, when you want just random rubble, getting some nice thick cork is a great way to do that. You can see how it's particulate. It's all pressed together. Sometimes you only find smaller cork, and you can still kind of rip it up like this. You just need to build it up in layers. But if you want a lot of rubble, this is a good way to get a bunch of rubble that you can fill up. You can build it up very quickly and use various little bits of it. And I usually just glue it together. You try to keep the flat bits aimed down and your rounded bits more to the top. But it does create a very convincing tumbled stone effect. So let's see here. Let's tumble these in. Then I'm going to soak them with some glue. Then I'm going to paint them with gray, and they're going to look just like they belong. Although the masonry over here is obviously far more intact. I'm just ripping this stuff up with my fingertips. It's so easy to crumble and make blocks of different sizes so that you can create a fun and convincing tumbled stones effect. Remember that tumbled stones are always, right next to a wall or right next to something they would have fallen from. Since this whole wall has been taken out, I'll probably actually carry my tumbled stones even outside of this space to make it look like the whole thing just collapsed. And that could go there, but I need to slice it up a little more. There we go. And honestly, I usually just drop these into place until they look good, and then I drizzle them with glue and let them set once I have a design I really like. And usually that works pretty well. So let's see here. So it's fighting me a little bit. The rubble is fighting me just a tad. So, and the great thing about this is that you buy this in these big sheets, and it's super cheap, and then it lasts for freaking ever. Like, I can't even tell you how long, because you usually get like 3 or 4 sheets. And you can get so much rubble out of like one tiny piece of a sheet. The other great way to use this, if you're building up terrain features like hills, is to layer it. So where did I put my cork? Ah, there it is. So you can roughen the edges like this and then build up even more cork on top of it. And if you make sure your edges kind of match up like this, you can see how if you don't leave a ledge, you can really just build up a nice series of cascading rocks and then have more or less level territory on the top. And then you can use some putty to kind of sculpt the top a little bit into irregularities to make it look more, less like a flat sheet. So cork is also a great way to build up rocky formations when you need them quickly. So, all right. Normally, I would use PVC glue, but I have super glue and I don't have PVC glue, so I may have to use super glue.
Are there any other alternatives other than cork for doing that, and by chance?
I mean, you can obviously build up gravel or build up, some people use foam core, but it warps, so I don't like it as much. Plastic hard, you could technically sandwich layers of something in between plastic hard to build it up, but I think cork builds up elevation faster than anything. Its downside is that it's just a little soft. So you really, if you're going to mount a model on it, I recommend covering the whole thing in PVA glue and letting it set, because it's almost like cement. And, and then drilling a hole really deep into your cork structure. In fact, you probably even want to set it in green stuff if you can. Kind of put a glob of green stuff, then drill into the thing with your pin, and then mount your model on top of it. So you might want to sculpt a little bit for your model to stand on that's green and not all cork, because it can be a little fragile. Painting it and applying a layer of glue before you paint it is one way to kind of smooth out your edges, and also it helps it with durability, because otherwise it's quite crumbly. You can see that it's giving off little particulate matter here, and this is partially because mine is old, but it does do that. So that's his downside. I really don't know of any other way that I like to build up. A lot of people do styrofoam. They sculpt styrofoam. But then you need a foam cutter, so you need specialized equipment, which if you've already got it, great, rock it. I never had one, and I mostly was doing smaller bases. So if you're not doing a huge flat hill for your tabletop, like Warhammer game or whatever, then I wouldn't worry about it. If you are doing big terrain, then yeah, look at foam sculpting, because it's probably going to get you where you're going a lot faster, and do it that way. Let me grab my super glue and put some strategically placed drops to glue this stuff down. It will take a little while, so once we set this up, we'll let it sit for a bit while I work on other things. Let's see here. I'm just going to talk a little bit about rubble and how it works. The problem is that I'm packing, so essentially all my stuff is everywhere, and I had to grab stuff that I could find. So I'm pretty much just going to put some globs of super glue and between areas. I'm going to let it run right down into there. This is Zap-A-Gap, but you could use any fluid super glue for this. It will cause sometimes like that, like it made a rock tilt up, in which case I have to kind of control it. But this should result in it, because it gets very brittle on the outside, but it will stick together. And it'll stick to the area it is placed on as well. So I'm going to drop a couple more drops over here. Pretty much just want to make sure to get the contact points where it's touching each other and where it's touching the base. This is Zap-A-Gap CA+, so it's a more fluid formula. It's not a super fluid formula, though. It's still a gap filler, which works in your favor. Cork is absorptive, so if you use a really fluid super glue with it, it's not going to work great. That's why a lot of people just use PVA. I use super glue as I need glue and I don't have PVA next to me. And I find that it does make the cork a little more brittle, but I find that could work for me in hardening parts of the cork to make it less likely to go particulate on me. So there we go. So a few drops of super glue, we'll let that set up, and then while we do that, we'll look at our little bones. I definitely want a skull there. And of course we can glue down anything we want as well. And now we could decide to glue these pieces in place after we've painted this area. That's perfectly fair. Sometimes I don't really care, because if I put the base coat over the top and then I have to paint them separately, it's just going to make it look like it's even more a part of this. It's not a separate piece. Whereas if I paint them separately, they really do look like separate pieces. And if you glue them down, it might be confusing. But either way works. It really doesn't matter. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Let me see here. I've got a skeleton, and he's headless, and he's got a shield, and I want the shield, so side cutters are a great way to get some of this stuff off. Just mangling skeletons today. Little did you guys know you were going to come in and watch me mangle skeletons, because it's fun. Yeah, Glenn, Ed is sick, so I am on Terrain Tuesday, and I'm actually doing terrain. I'm not building trebuchets or any other war machines. I am mangling skeletons, and going to show you guys some interesting colors to use for stonework when I get through with mangling skeletons. And I may do this, I may work on this next week. Also, it depends on if Ed is back. It depends on so many things, obviously with the virus response and all the rest of it. So we're playing it by ear, but I will work on this again next week if things seem to be going that way. If Ed is still under the weather, or if Reaper has taken further steps in minimizing contact or whatever, but we'll see. Everything is so up in the air these days, we can really only speak to right now. Cannot really speak to how things will be tomorrow, or the next day, or the next week. And I'm still here in Texas for at least another week and a half, or 2 weeks. No, more. I'm here till like early April. So I am available and able to stream. All right, so chunked off the shield. The front of the shield is still pretty cool. It's got lumpy parts there. I'm not sure what that is, so I can always do a really ragged cut into the shield. If I don't like that detail, I can just chop it. And I don't really care if the chop is really rough. If I do that, I'm not gonna mind it because it's just a terrain piece. So the shield can look chopped. Obviously the skeleton died somehow. There we go. Nice choppy shield. And then I'm gonna chop this part also. And you want to use a nice sharp knife, and you want to go very light pressure with it so you don't have it slip and gouge you. I keep my knives actually a little bit dull just in case, because I don't want it to accidentally gouge me. And I find using a slightly more dull knife on bones is not a big problem, but don't quote me on that. All right, there we go. Nice chopped up shield. Where can I put that? I can put that over here. So shields are great because when you want a splash of color on your base or your model, you can do a shield, and it's something visually interesting. It's a contrasting color because you can paint something a brighter color if you want for a color accent. It's much more bright than, say, bones for a skull or something like that, right? So it's one of the things that you can use if you need a complementary or contrasting color. Like if you were doing this on a base for a model, and the model was mostly painted in greens and earth colors, but you wanted a splash of color, you could paint this shield red for a contrast, a dark red, and that would be complementary. It would introduce a splash of color. It would be a little more interesting. So you can totally use shields that way. I missed some mold lines, so I'm going to get the mold lines off that sucker real quick. Let's see here. Nomad Zeke, we used to joke that you couldn't win a golden demon unless you'd bled on it. So yes, there was a time when that was a thing. Am I going to drive to California, or going to road trip to California and avoid being in a germ-filled aluminum tube? Yes, Pendrake, actually, because of Kiri, I must road trip to California. I have to bring my dog, and the movers won't move my dog, nor would I want them to. So Kiri and I will be road tripping. David was gonna fly down, but it does raise his risk, and I told him I'm willing to do the trip myself. He just doesn't want me to do it all alone, which is very sweet. But we haven't decided yet. As of now, he still has his flight. So, and given we are going to be living together, so if he has germs already, then, well, I'm just going to get those germs, and that's the way it is. But if he does not yet have germs, yes, it can raise risk. So yeah. Hey, Kibble, I cannot see your name. Kikin something. Kikinus, maybe. What terrain piece am I attaching this to? This is actually from our Bones 4 Kickstarter, and it is Ruined Temple from the Fantasy Scenics expansion. It's not yet released, but it should come out by the end of this year. We've been slowly releasing stuff from Bones 4. And some of the bigger pieces are just proving more problematic because they have to have box art designs and stuff like that. And now, of course, everything in China is kind of iffy and factories are being shut down and stuff. So, yeah, we don't know, but hopefully it will all come out eventually. The stuff I'm teaching, though, applies to really any kind of ruined, like, terrain part that you can find. So, but it is a really cool terrain piece. Here, let me zoom up and show you guys. It's this one is broken. They're not all broken. Here we go. There we are. You can see how unorganized my desk is right now. There is the entirety of the temple. Thank you for the sub, Star Wars Geek. Yay, the bearded goblin. It's good to see you. Yay, so there you go. Ha, thank you, Glenn. I believe he is worth it. Thank you. Plus mini painting power couple, you know. But actually the cost of living shock is less than you think. Rent is the big thing, but as he was already paying rent, I don't have to worry as much about that, although of course I would like to contribute. But starting out for sure, because I'm going to be mostly freelancing, I don't have to worry about that. Food is actually really close to what it is in Denton, if you can believe that. I was pricing things when I was out there because I cook for him, and you know, we go to the grocery store. I'm like, this is the same cost as it is in Denton. This is the same cost as it is in Denton. It's just kind of nuts. Gas is more expensive, but I'm going to be working from home, so you know, I don't think it's going to be that bad. There are definitely
I also have some insider information.
Oh yeah.
On this super secret show that you guys are gonna do as a couple called "Oh, the Things They'll Paint."
I'll tell David. I don't think he agreed to that. I don't think you got it in writing. So I want my shield there. I try to like scatter little bits of stuff through the ruins. Actually, if I didn't want to show the splintered part of that spear, I could actually tilt it into this little fissure between the stones. Hold on, I just realized there was a little bit of plastic. But I could actually tilt it in there and have the rocks catch it. So you see, you guys, it's sticking up now. Now an unwary adventurer can be knocked onto this spear. I kind of like that. It adds a little bit more three-dimensionality to it. I'm going to poke at my rocks a little bit. They're pretty good, actually. I think they've all mostly stuck in place. Painting them will be the real test. That one's kind of a little bit wonky. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to that. I just gently poked them. You can see that they've grown some white, you know, that's the super glue buildup. Probably as it hit the paint kind of underneath. And you can use that actually to make some interesting patterns and designs, dropping moisture into super glue. I know Marika has done it before. When she's done pieces and wanted more organic forms for like undersea sponges and stuff like that. So super glue has all sorts of uses. So I'm going to actually glue down that one piece that was a little bit wonky. Everybody else seems pretty good, pretty solid. So I think I can actually base coat this. So it doesn't take long to set up. Food prices are different. Yeah, actually not so much. I was looking, I mean, Vigos, at steak. And if you catch it on sale, it's about the same. If you don't catch it on sale, it's maybe $1 or $2 more per pound. But I mean, not significant when you're looking at a $15 per pound steak, you know, but you're waiting till it drops anyway, if you're me, right? I tend to be fairly frugal on that. I look for sales, and that's what I determine whether I'm going to cook something. But chicken is the same cost. So yeah, shellfish, a little bit more expensive, but not as bad as I had thought it would be. Like, people tell you to be ready for like 30% greater costs or something, and I'm like, this is not, for food, it was not exactly that. And a lot of my food supplies I can just order from Amazon, so, you know, mostly it's the fresh stuff that I have to worry about. So we'll see. I'm sure there's going to be price increases compared to here, but I'm also living in the South Bay area where the weather is gorgeous, so that's the payoff, right? Yeah. Yep, sale steak. Well, I'm going to be sad that I'm missing this Texas sale steak, because now, you know, you walk in, you can get ribeyes for like $3.99 a pound if you wait for the right freaking sale. It's ridiculous.
I love ribeyes.
Yeah, ribeye is definitely my favorite steak if I'm going to have a steak.
Mine too.
Alrighty. Let's see here. I want to glue down that little spear so it's sticking up. Where's my glue? And then we're going to do some gravel to make this rubble make more sense. Get some glue in there. Stick in their bones. Stick in their spear. Yeah, I want that to be pointed up so that unwary adventurers can get totally like caught by it. And I want to just glue this shield in very gently. Again, I'm just going to run some glue down the side of that rock. That'll get it. I want to get this skeleton, and having a pair of tweezers is useful. Let me see where I put mine. I don't actually have tweezers, but I've got like forceps. So let me see. they go? Did I like already put them somewhere else? I may have already put them somewhere else. Let's see. Yeah, here they are. So these are surgical tweezers. They're really useful for the same thing you would use any tweezer for. I just like them because they have super fine noses. So I can grab and hold very nicely. And I want my skull over here, so I'm going to put a dot of glue. Somebody's head went rolling at some point in the past. And then I can manipulate it. There we go. Come on. There you go, head. Nudge it back into that corner. There we go. Have to have him looking at you or it's not a good skull. I've cut down on my protein a lot, Pendrake, actually. It's my latest diet is much lower protein. But I will make myself eat red meat like once a week. Yeah, I know, Glenn, right? And since, I mean, nobody gets to see anybody at Adepticon next week. Adepticon is done. David was super bummed because he finished like 2 Golden Demon entries and now he has to hold them until next year. But yeah, so kind of a bummer for Games Workshop too because they were doing the Golden Demon thing. Let me get my gravel. Where is it? There it is. Yes, if you aren't decorating with skulls, you are doing it wrong. This could be you, Dungeon Skull. Yes, more skull factor, the better. Yes, it is, Pendrake. In fact, that's what we got. Model Railroad Ballast. I use a mixture of the fine and the medium ballast. You can see it here. I do also have them separate, but I often like the organic look I get from using the mixture, especially on bases. Yeah, sales tax is higher, although sales tax here isn't it 8% here, Justin?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so it's not, again, it's not that much higher in California.
It's 6 1/4 on vehicles, though.
Yeah. But I have my vehicle, and I'm going to drive it into the ground before I buy a new one. Whee! Yeah, I mean, things are more expensive out there, but, I mean, my boyfriend is out there, so I'm going. And, I do really like the area. I love the weather. I love that we're really close to national parks and forests. There's actually scenery, which is actually, I really like Texas, and my time here has been great, but I have missed scenery since I moved here. Where is my glue? There's my glue. I am going to do some gravel to add some more fallen rubble stuff, because it's very weird to me that there's rubble here without lesser rubble. So I'm going to add some splooges and splonks of glue. Just roughly kind of make some irregular shapes. And then I'm going to just drop some stuff on them. I'm going to make a mess. Why do terrain if you cannot make a mess? Like, we can now say that I have been true to the spirit of Ed, right, Justin?
Oh, boy. Listen, one Ed's enough. Thankfully, we're not in the studio.
Right. See, you don't have to clean up after me here.
So mess away, Ann. Mess away.
Yes, I'm messing up my own home. But that is also why it's nice to keep something underneath your mess, like a mat or a piece of paper or something, so you can easily sweep up all of the debris. And I'm mostly just tapping this along. I want it to fill in any cracks that might have gone under the super glue. And I'm going to tilt it and dump it right back into my container. My container is a pretty big, like, old cottage cheese container or something. There we go. And I'm just tapping. Essentially, it allows me to tap all this stuff off over my container. You could also use a plate, like a paper plate. That works great for tapping off excess basing materials. Because it almost always is true, basing or terrain, that if you are using gravel or grass or anything like that, or flock, the most expedient way to get it on there is going to be to dump it all over the thing, rather than trying to finesse it. You may as well just do it. And dumping it all over the thing and knocking it about a little bit gives you a far more realistic effect, in general, of heaping rubble than it does otherwise. And in fact, at this point, I forget who said it earlier, but you mentioned that Woodland Scenic's basing materials really soak up super glue. That works for you here. Because if you notice, let's see. I don't really know if I can get it in focus, but if you notice, this is mounded up. Like, the gravel isn't in a single thin layer. Because I put puddles of super glue and threw gravel on top of it, it actually dried in mounds, which makes it look like real gravel, because that's what would happen. So you can make that work for you when you're working with this ballast and you're applying it to bases. Just keep it in mind. It works a bit better on scenery and on bases for larger models, I find. So things like 72 millimeter models or things like that might be, or monster bases. Because obviously if you've got a little tiny 28 millimeter or a halfling, this might even look out of scale. And in that case, I would actually use green stuff and sculpt basing, which reminds me of another thing. I can put gravel on top of this green stuff and press it in. And not all of it will cling, but what doesn't cling is going to leave the impression of the gravel in it, which means that the green stuff will then have a gravel texture where the gravel doesn't stick. There we go. Yay! Excellent. I'm very happy. Yay. All these little tips and tricks and things I've learned with basing over the years. And I do really like scenic bases, which may as well be mini dioramas, which may as well be terrain. So, you know, it's all six to one, half dozen the other. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you move away from scenery and yeah. So there are flatter places than Texas, for sure. Oh, yeah. New Zealand to Oklahoma. Oh, my gosh. That's just crazy. Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who was born in New Zealand, and she pretty much, very much misses it. Yeah. Hey, Surrender It All. How you doing? All right, cool. Well, let's see. The good thing about this also is that usually the glue is trapped and dries fast when it's got the gravel on it. So I am still going to be using an expendable brush, but I'm going to grab some of my gray, and I'm using a 9089 Cloudy Gray today, and I'm going to apply it to this thing. And actually, since I only painted half of it, I can just put a big glob of it down here and just work with it. So I'm going to be pretty gentle with some of these because I'm not certain how set they are. I'm going to try to avoid wet glue, even though this is a really crappy throwaway brush. Still don't want to totally screw it up. Now, in a lot of terrain, I would start a color lower than this. So I would actually maybe start with Stormy Gray. But today I decided to start with more of a medium gray and see what I could do with it. I tend to like starting dark because it's very easy to build up, from a dark base coat very quickly. And you get a very dramatic effect. But it also makes everything extremely dark. And I wasn't sure that I wanted this to be extremely dark since it was technically kind of open to the sky, being a ruined temple out in the middle of wherever. So I decided to go with this. A lot of times with my Games Workshop stuff, I'll actually prime it black and just go up from there. And some of my gravel's going to come off, and that's fine. And the gravel is going to be one color to start with because it's probably going to be the same color as the stonework that it broke off from. So, if that makes sense. I think this might be kind of loose. Yeah, I might need to glue that one again. Where's the glue? There's the glue. Not a big deal, just a small delay. Boink. There. Hopefully that will glue that piece on. That's why I was being kind of gentle with my brushwork. It's because I wanted to not knock anything off that may have not been glued quite solid enough. My gray is giving me trouble here. Come on, gray. Let's see here. Good afternoon, Fraley. Printings of 3D printer dungeon walls. Well, that's good. I am painting some dungeon walls and floors and pillars and rocks. Just trying to kind of get everything in place. Technically, I don't need to hit everything way down into the cracks here. I just want to hit a lot of stuff. And I want to, again, avoid fresh glue. So I'm going to avoid that piece right there where I just put the glue on. Although, again, with a terrain brush, it's not a big deal if you... It already doesn't hold a point. So, if you accidentally glue it, it's not like... it's a big crisis. Only if you need it to be flat still would it be a crisis. In which case, you shouldn't be using it for this. I need a pokey tool. Oh wow, even Pokey Tool is saying, no, your Cloudy Gray bottle is mostly doomed. Please don't be doomed, Cloudy Gray. I need you. There we go. Yay. Awesome. Sweet. Do. I should do some terrain stuff for my Patreon, I guess. Somewhere along there. Or maybe I'll just do scenic basing stuff. Because I was going to build a base for my creature caster demon. Who I cannot show on stream, even though I am home and I have her right here because there is nudity. So I would need to put pasties on her first. There we go. So we got some stuff. And I don't mind if a little bit of brown is showing through down here. It's not important. If I see little pieces of gravel like here that maybe are just kind of sitting around, I'll try to hit them with the glue and put them in a place that makes sense. So I'll brush them up against like some of these bricks or brush them up against the rest of the gravel here because the paint will essentially glue them in place. Now, if I could find my superfine sand, which is around here somewhere, I might add an additional layer of debris coming out from here. So essentially we'd go from big debris to smaller debris to really fine debris. And that's the way that stuff actually works. If you go ever and look at a ruined building, an ancient one, like in England, Scotland, anywhere around there, assuming that the site hasn't been cleaned up, you will notice that sort of fallen degenerations, like from the big pieces to the little pieces. There we go. Got a bunch of that stuff out. I am going to be actually using more and different colors to paint this, so that's why I don't care if there are traces of brown and stuff around. Though I think that looks pretty good, and it actually looks as if it belongs there. And what I like about doing this sort of thing is then it's not the same. Like there are pieces that are kind of shaped like this, rubble pieces that are shaped like this over here in the corner and a little bit here. But they have a little bit of roundedness to them. And here the texture is much more rock-like. So I think it adds a nice additional texture element. And if I had time, I don't have time today, but I'll probably continue to add more of this sort of rubble, like over here, probably some up here, maybe some over here, maybe here, so that it does all look like it belongs, and can add that additional level. Because you can see how it's compared to here, because of course this has been molded together, this is much more interesting visually and much more complicated. So like if your adventurers walked into this dungeon right now, they'd be like, okay, what's buried over there, right? So, and if you wanted to, you could leave like, the tip of a sword or a skeleton leg coming out from underneath it. That works just great with these big boulders because you just stick it out and bury it. Thank you for the sub, Aaron Perkins. Twisted Oma, I like to paint them. For me, I think if you're making terrain from natural things, and it's all made from natural things, then it's just fine to leave it its natural color. But I think that if you are putting natural things on top of a terrain piece that is already painted, it should be painted. I find it very visually jarring if you do not do so. And that's a personal preference. Like other painters, I know other painters who do not agree with me on this. So it's up to you. But for me, I want to have things look like they belong together, and things that are painted have a definite different look to them than things that aren't. And so that's why, to me, I'll even paint my static grass. I don't paint it like solid, but I'll put a dry brush of color on top of it, because otherwise the fibers are shiny and synthetic looking, and it bothers me. And likewise with turf, stuff like that. Now with things like bark, like Michael Proctor uses, then I might leave it mostly intact because it does look natural, but I still am likely to put some slight highlights and maybe some shadows, block in some shadows on it, just to make it, again, look more like it belongs with the model. So it's a total personal preference thing. Do it either way. Thank you, Coffee Nerder Beer. I wish I was a frequent visitor to Falling Down in Ruined Castles. I don't live anywhere close to castles. Yeah, and actually, Mistimp has an excellent point there, Twisted Oma. And it can adjust the scale as well. Yeah, paint can really affect that. Yeah, I dry brush on top of my static grass. It takes down the shine. I used to just hit it with dull coat, but then I'd have to hit the rest of the model with dull coat, and I didn't want to always do that, Nomad Zeek. So I decided that instead I would just dry brush a little lighter color. Usually I use a pale yellow or a pale yellow green, or like what is the color? Buckskin Pale 9075 is nice for dried grass. It depends on if my grass is going to be really bright green and happy, or if my grass is kind of drying and not looking great. And it depends on what color you're using of grass. Hey, this lets me talk about grass. Now, some of it, if you're using tufts, obviously, some of it is done just that way. So like this, the wasteland tufts here are done dark, but then they also have lighter tufts put on top of them. But if you were just using the wasteland tufts, which is the base of this, these really would benefit with a slight dry brush of lighter brown, right? To just bring out the fibers and stuff. So I do that often. I don't like using something that's all one color, like homogeneous, or even if it has a tiny bit of variance. I think that a dry brush makes it look more like it belongs on a painted base. So that is just me. I have so many colors of static grass. It's not even funny. I don't know. I just keep picking them up somehow. I keep thinking, do I have some of that color? I don't remember. And the next thing you know, it all just adds up. So I've got like bluish green static grass, and I've got really pretty dark foresty green static grass that has a lot of different colored fibers in it. That's a good one. But stuff like that. I don't always use tufts. I use tufts occasionally. If it's something like this, I think tufts are more useful because it's stonework and tufts are going to be growing out of cracks or where there's a little bit of soil. Yeah, I think it works, right, Nazarok? I really like this sort of effect. And I like this base to begin with, but I think that adding things to it, just a little bit of extra texture and different surfaces, is really good, is a really fun thing, and it adds so much. Where did my statue go? I had a statue. There it is. I'm going to glue this down, actually. This is the statue that Temple Dragon sits on. Temple Dragon is 77503. And it occurred to me that the statue he sits on is a perfect fit for this plinth, where the old statue had broken off. And I kind of liked the thought of putting the Temple Dragon in this ruin. So the great thing is that Temple Dragon, by himself, if you build him, he just slots right into the ruined statue here. So you could actually just paint this normally, leave him off of here, build him, and then just put him on there when he comes to, like, you know, attack your adventurers. So I really like that. I also always thought that Temple Dragon would make a great model for, like, an advanced gargoyle. Like, maybe a hyper, like, more magical beast kind of gargoyle. I think he would be great for that. Not just a dragon. Not that a dragon is ever just a dragon. So I got a little bit of texture here, and that's because my paint wasn't fully cured from my glue, and that's easy. No problem whatsoever, because when it dries like that, it's very crystalline, so you can just paint right over it. There we go. That adds yet more little extra texture around our shield. I probably do need some gravel underneath that shield, just to kind of have it be in a really ruined area. And I do need to work with that, but I'm not quite up to working with it quite yet. There. Alrighty. Yeah, his posture does say gargoyle. I think he makes a great, like mega gargoyle, you know, like not dire gargoyle, but, you know, something, an enhanced or augmented gargoyle. Something that makes gargoyle, you know, gargoyle more than just a level 2 or 3 monster. So you could use him for anything like that. Alrighty. Let's see here. What's next? Anne? Glued that down. Let's talk about colors, stone colors. And then I can leave you a little bit for another day, and tomorrow you get 2 doses of Anne again. So colors that I like, colors that I like to use for shading gray stone are totally different than you might guess. Well, okay, some of them are browns, like brown liner. Often, as I mentioned, I do start darker. Sometimes I will use brown liner to shade down in places and pick out details on something like this. But what I actually like using instead is a dark green. Swamp Green 9175 is my usual go-to choice, but you could also use Ancient Oak 9412, or this is like the first version of like Rotting Wood, which is a Kickstarter color from Bones 4. It's a dark olivey green. So anything like that is going to work really well. And the reason I like using these colors for shading is that it implies moss and like fluid algae growth and stuff like that. Oh yeah, absolutely. I bet there's been some Kickstarters for that would work with this. Yeah, rotting wood is a great one for this because it's got so much brown in it, right? So it implies that you've got a lot of fluid around. You know what? I have totally misplaced. Aha! Pardon me. I need to get my palette bit things. Since I can't just mix a wash on the base itself. Well, I could, but you know, I have things. I'm going to use them. There.
That's expert level, right?
Yeah. Expert level is mixing your wash on the model. Yeah. Although, you know what? Wet blender or wet pellet users do it all the time, so can't be that hard, right? All right, let's do our rotting wood. I'm going to use one of my little ampule thingies. Doo-doo-doo. So yeah, I like using greens for shadows or greenish browns. And painting them specifically into cracks and recesses and on the base. I may actually do a mixture. I think that maybe ancient oak is a little bit better if you are looking at more of a forest ruin. And rotting wood and swamp green were going to be better if you're looking at more of a swamp ruin. And you're really looking at that kind of algae growth kind of thing going on. Let me just clean off my pokey tool here. It's definitely getting beaten up today. There. Ah, that was a lot of blue. My ancient oak obviously needs to be mixed up a little bit better. See, I do it just like you guys. So these tiny little thingies, we actually looked for these and found out that we couldn't find them on Amazon. They're actually like bacterial sampling things, medical supplies. A patron gave me a bunch of them, so they're just handy. I actually, were my palette here, I would prefer my palette. However, I left it in the sink, so I'm just going with what I got. And we're gonna mix it up. And since I'm building a wash, I'm gonna look for my brush on sealer and add a bit of that because it helps with transparency. We've got probably about 10 minutes left to Sodoma or Nomad Zeke, sorry. So maybe not, and if we miss you, then I will see you tomorrow morning, hopefully. Come on, thingy. Man, my stuff just does not want to function today. Is this what Ed goes through? Is this time slot? Is it cursed, Justin?
I don't think so. Because, I mean, he
There we
typically
go.
doesn't hurt himself or lose anything. He just makes a giant mess.
Oh, okay. Well, I am making somewhat of a mess. I'm not making perhaps an Ed scale mess. But I'm not sure. Yes, Poketool. Yeah, I have just downloaded the marble game, and I'm the one who has to start it, so now I actually have to figure out how to use it, guys. Justin will hopefully help me through this. Will I still be able to talk to you, Justin? Oh, yeah, you're on Discord.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be fine.
Now, I won't be able to see it in real time.
Right, I'll just describe to you what I see, and you can help me. So I like to do a little bit of green here and there, and I like to do green in between cracks. And when you put something like that over the top, you can always take your brush and kind of thin it out, make it go more into the cracks.
And since we don't have this terrain or anything to give it away, what we'll do is we'll do the top 3 winners.
Okay.
We'll get a hat and a mouse pad.
A hat and a mouse pad? Are you sure we have those?
Yes, we do. We have them downstairs. Actually, Dave gave them away on Friday.
Oh, great. Awesome. Yay, hat and mouse pad. Alrighty. So I like to start with green and get some of that all going on so that it implies mossiness. I might fade it out as it goes more toward the middle here and keep it more green where it might be pooling. And you can actually take a Kleenex and kind of wipe to clean up your upper areas, because you're not looking for smoothness of blending. It doesn't matter. So if you wipe, then you can get your green still sticking in the cracks, and you can clean off your upper stones a little bit. But you're going to be dry brushing anyway. Yes, I'm going to dry brush on stream. Don't be shocked, everybody. It does happen. Well, at least it happens on this stream, because dry brushing and terrain are what it's all about. All right, let's see here. So we'll let that dry for a second while I reach for my next color. So I like to start with a neutral gray, but then I like to mess it up, is what it comes down to. And since I didn't put any paint on this side yet, it can serve as my palette for right now. Oh, I haven't set up anything with marbles, guys, so it's not live. Yeah, it won't be live for a little bit. Do not exclamation point play yet. Because remember, I'm a noob about setting this up, so I think I have to start it. And are there maps that I can choose from, Justin, on it?
Absolutely. There's some easy ones we can choose, or we can really it's gonna be up to you. It's kind of whatever your flavor was.
I might just choose randomly and see if it's a sucky map and apologize if it is. So I just got some wolf gray, which is a bit more brown. As you can see, it's very close to the color of the actual bones plastic. So if you ever wanted to put a base coat down on your stuff and you didn't want it to be too different from the one we got already, you could choose wolf gray, which is 9434, I believe. So I'm using a flat brush. I prefer to use a flat brush for terrain. I think it just makes it a little easier when you're trying to hit highlights on little things like this, the top of this pillar, which is very flat and just has a little bit of relief. Now, given my flat brush isn't very flat anymore because I've brutalized it, but it's still pretty good at hitting like the high points. And this color isn't very much lighter than this, but it should still pick up my details pretty well. And it should make these new rocks that we added stand out even more. And I can also use it to kind of reverse some of my green, paint over some of my green if I don't like where it is. I'm just mostly going to pick up the upper surfaces and let the other surfaces stay down. And since it's brown, it works with the green a little bit. It gives it a slightly different color profile. And then I'm actually going to go over, and this is an idea I got from Michael Proctor, he who is the basing god. I had to actually match a piece of his terrain once because I don't remember. I think we hadn't sent him all the pieces they needed or something like that for something. And so I had to match his paint scheme on them. And I hadn't realized how many colors he used in his stonework. He uses a crap ton of colors in his stonework. So he actually used something like a burnt orange for his highest highlight on stones. And I actually thought it was the most interesting thing I'd seen in ages. And so I went with it, and I loved the effect so much that now I do it on all my gray stones, always. So essentially, you're just in trying to give a little bit more color variation. And really, when sunlight shines on stones, it turns them kind of golden or orange anyway. So, raiding your stream. Raid, thank you. Thank you, Ray. Yeah, this is normally be Ed's terrain stream, but Anne has taken over briefly.
Yes, thank you for the raid, Gamer Dad NC.
Yeah, thanks. So mostly, I just added some rubble to this existing Reaper terrain piece, the Ruined Temple. And I'm just dry brushing some wolf gray over the top of my colors that I put on it earlier. And now I'm going to take that orange just so I can show you guys how it looks. Because this is how I do almost all of my ruined stone. I like to take a dark brown or dark green for my base, and then I bring in some burnt orange. I'm going to have to shake it probably a lot. Yeah, I know. I'm doing everything. Yeah, I'm sorry for Rissy, I was cold, so I totally put my plaid on. I have a whole bunch of flannel shirts. It's like a holdover from Wisconsin, growing up in Wisconsin. I like flannel a lot for when it's and it isn't even that it's particularly cold in the house. It's just that I'm sitting here, right? You're sitting in one place, so you get cold. So yeah, I'm in my comfy plaid today. And this is an oversized one, but it's very, very thick, and I like it. Alrighty, actually I should roll my sleeve back up though. Okay, so we've got some burnt orange here. You can see what that color is. It's a very brown orange. It's 9111. A lot of people don't use it for much, but honestly, when you're doing stonework and stuff, it can add just a little pizzazz to your upper reaches. And then after this, you could go in with an off-white, like linen white, and even add more punch. But so we're going to be dry brushing. Where is my... when I need something to brush paint off on and I don't have it and I don't want to use the terrain, I use sticky notes. So we want to get most of that paint off. Remember, you want to just be able to see a little bit. And then you just want to hit the edges of your stonework, just a little bit. Just want to add a little orange here and there. You don't want to overwhelm it. You just want a little bit so that you're just like, what is that? Hey, that's interesting. And if you just use a tiny touch, it makes it look a lot more visually interesting without looking unnatural. So it's a little bit. There we go. And then, where is my, I know I've got an off-white here. We'll use bleached linen. Close enough. You can actually mix a little bit of it with your orange if you want. Boop. Get kind of a creamy color. And then hit some of these areas again. So you take down your orange a little bit, but it's still kind of there. Just bring up some edges. Suggest some color variation in your stones. And I would probably do this treatment around on a lot of the stones that I put here just to make sure it was consistent. More like that. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get more light and focus. There. So more like that. So it gives you some interesting additional color characteristics for your stone. So it's not just boring gray stone. And, you know, maybe it suggests there's some iron in the stone or another color that's giving you like some oxide, like yellow iron oxide can give you this sort of color is the gray to yellow. Some granite looks like this. So yeah, it just gives you a little bit more color variation in your stone. So if you guys were watching me do Dance of Death and do the base, the week or two that I did the base on that, you'll know that I like to put different colors in my rocks. So this is one version. I didn't use this on Dance of Death, but this is what a version of stuff that I reach for a lot. And if you ever think that you've got too much orange, you can always put a glaze on it or a wash on it or dab a little bit of wolf gray over it to make it a little bit different. But I think that when you're done with it, this does look a lot like the rocks in Wisconsin I grew up with, which were gray with streaks of like yellow gold and stuff like that, an orangey color. Oh, did we lose video? Oh, there's some lag.
Yeah, it's possible your internet had a hiccup there.
Oh, no. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, it is a rainy day, and weather usually does not affect our internet positively here in Denton. So apologies if we had a hiccup from home. Okay, yeah, refresh it if you're hitting stuff, guys. But yeah, so this is a great way to still use your grays, but you know, to also dress it up with some other colors, and it gives you a really natural look. And I like naturalness. Now, in the future, should we be back for the stream next week, I'm probably going to add even some like grass and weeds in here. Maybe I'm going to add more rubble. I'm going to finish painting the rest of this. You know, all that kind of thing. I'll see if I can find my fine sand so I can make even more texture there. Oh, thanks with the sub-bearded goblin. Yay. 8 months. Awesome. And Purple Heart. Yes. Purple Heart is the best. Alrighty. Fantastic. Well, I think it's about time, isn't it, Justin? Should I, it's 4:05. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
go ahead and launch the marble game.
Okay, let me launch marble game. 1 second, guys. I got to get out of my streamy thing. I had to get over to marble game. And I think I didn't put a link to it. Oh, I might have it on Steam. Steam, yay, marble game. All right, so I just hit play, Justin?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm hitting play. This is my first time activating marbles, guys, so hold on until we make sure that we're going. All right, it's coming up.
Don't type play yet, guys. It's not up.
Yeah, we're working on it. Home screen, please sign in with Twitch. Where's my sign in? It says I'm on. says I have to sign in with Twitch, but I don't get it. Is it because I'm hosting on your Twitch, Justin?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh,
So that
no.
means you have to sign in as our Twitch.
Oh, okay. How do I
Which
do
makes
that?
this markedly a little
Yeah.
more difficult.
Yeah. Like, how do I go up to my name and sign out? Do I?
Yeah, on your Twitch, what you'd want to do is sign out I assume you're on as Painting Big or whoever, I guess in this case.
Yeah.
And then you'll want to sign in as us.
I don't know if I want to do that. I don't want to mess up my settings.
Okay, well then
Yeah.
in that case,
Sorry,
we can go.
guys. Yeah, I wanted to do this, but I think it's not going to work. I was trying to make it work, but if I have to change all my freaking settings and then, because we're setting up so I'm set up so I can stream it on Reaper's channel. I don't want to have to change all that and then figure out how to change it back. Because last time I had some issues with that. So I'm sorry, guys. I like marbles too. I'll have to figure it out by the time I move, Justin. I'll have to figure out how to do it.
I'll after outside of stream, I'll work it out with you.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do that in stream. Yeah, sorry, JJ Trucking. Rip marbles. My apologies. All my fault.
So instead, what we'll do is I just activated hashtag free, so everyone type
oh yeah,
hashtag
free, everybody.
and I will draw 3 winners.
Hashtag free. Do your hashtag free. Freeze. Yay, they're all the frees. Free. Gotta say the free thing when you say free. Haha, you wish for free swag for everybody. Haha, this show is the prize we win. Yeah, you're cute. Well, you got Ann Terrain Tuesday instead of Ed Terrain Tuesday, so you feel so free. We have lots of free. We wish we could send everybody a prize, but I think that Dave would have a problem with that. Like, he's probably sick of Ed doing it already, right? Here, let me go back to Facecam here. Yay, we're back. Me and my flannel. Hanging out with the basil plant. Ah, it is a day. It is so dreary. It's supposed to rain forever here.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Yeah, I mean, I looked and it was like maybe Friday will be sunny, but otherwise we've got thunderstorms like pretty much marching through, which is how it was the day or the time of year when I first moved here 17 years ago. Every night there was a thunderstorm. But at that point, I didn't have a dog that I had to take out in it, so I didn't mind so much, or a backyard that, was filling with water.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have Lake Kirieville out here. I'm hoping that since it hasn't been actively pouring yet, that some of it will have slurped back into the ground. But it's supposed to rain again later, I think, so, and overnight. Will the basil make the move? Chris Air, probably not, just because David's already got a basil, so I will probably butcher this basil with scallops and lemon and butter sauce.
God, that sounds amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah, it's really good.
I love scallops.
Mm-hmm. Kiri doesn't mind lightning now.
I'll go ahead and draw the 3 names now.
Yeah, Endless Monkey Paws and Coffee Nerdery Beer. I have a towel on the floor right inside the back door, and I make her stand on the towel. She knows what towel means. It means stand here and let me pet you while your paws absorb. All right, we got some freeze.
Yep. All right, our 3 winners are... I'm going to go to announcement chat here. Saragnon, I think.
We are still live, Pendrake.
Khimairon, and allenp.
Yay! Here, I'm going to close this. There.
And that is our 3 winners. What? You go ahead and let them know what they can do.
Oh, yeah. They got to email giveaways at reaperlive or giveaways at reapermini.com. Am I right? Yes.
Giveaways at reapermini.com.
Yes, giveaways at reapermini.com. Please include your screen name exactly as it appears on the Twitch chat, and also where you live so that we can mail you a mouse pad and hat. So yeah, that kind of thing. We decided to be a mouse pad and hat for everybody who won for a scene. Yes, congrats, winners. I'm sorry I couldn't marbles for you. Justin and I will figure it out. I just didn't want to mess with settings when I was in the middle of the stream. Alrighty. Well, thank you. Yeah, hopefully Ed will be back, and if he's not back, I'll just do another show next week. Or if he's not ready with a new topic, maybe he'll let me do another show on this. But yes, I hope you all enjoyed it. I had fun. It was definitely something different for once. But yeah, have a great time. Have a great day. Do we have a raid, Justin?
Yes, actually.
Alrighty. Well, good then. We'll go to the Fade to End screen, and all of you have fun and raid the person. Who is it?
I'm going to be rating Captain Madlove.
Oh, Captain Madlove. Well, that's a great name. All right, guys, spread the Reaper love to Captain Madlove, and we will see you tomorrow morning.
Thanks, guys. Also, stay healthy and safe out there. Spread the Reaper love. See you guys tomorrow.